when the seagulls follow the trawler, it's because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea. Thank you.
And as we say now in my country, they brought the bus and they left the bus in front of the goal.
And the guy's talking absolute nonsense. Never heard so much rubbish in my life.
Normal men.
What do you mean, normal men?
We're just innocent men.
I'm telling you, don't back down, double down. Don't back down, double down.
It's the Breakfast Bar, my favourite show of the week, back to my favourite time of the week. I just love being up at 8:30 doing this, but the bus, as David Kelly said in the chat there, never stops. Johnny Logue joins me, as always. Chirpy in the morning, Johnny.
Yeah, Bhoycie, but I'm smelling some shite from you this morning.
What's that, mate? But how?
Well, yeah, your favourite show of the week? I don't think it is, mate. I'm feeling really chipper this morning, even more chipper than normal, because not just to do with the football coming up at the weekend, but after a flying visit to Scotland, I managed to bring back some square sausage and plain bread, and had a nice plain bread and square sausage sandwich for my breakfast this morning.
That is the breakfast of champions. I can't eat it this time. I've never been able to eat first thing in the morning. I don't know how you do it. Steve-O, always looking fresh in the morning, mate. What's happening? You've probably been to the gym, went a run round the park, the lot, mate. What's happening?
I'm good, mate. I've dropped the kids off at school, get a free day. That's on the agenda later on, so we'll crack on with this. But before we start, mate, I need to ask you a question. Are you feeling all right?
How?
What's happened to you? You've collapsed the fucking Austro-Hungarian Empire on that sudden death. Have you been points deducted?
I don't know, man.
You any administration?
Every dog has his day, Steve-O, and I think I'm very much having mine. 5 weeks in a row, man. 5 weeks
Shocker.
in a row. Since the stupid house, man, I hate it. Yeah, but yeah, I know, another disaster last night. I got away with one as well. And
I know. So close.
Well, thanks for the spoiler, Steve, because I've not watched it yet.
Oh, it's a disaster, man. It's going to pot. It's going to absolute pot. Anyway, brilliant to see so many folk on. It is obviously a big week at this time of the season. We'll get a wee bit excited. Scottish Cup semi-final coming up. And, of course, we've got it against the rivals with, as you all fair, Steve, when I agree with you, probably a manager we hate more than any other in history. It just adds a wee bit of spice to it. So fair play to Mickey Beale for that, I suppose. Before we get started and all that sort of chat, and we're going to talk a wee bit of Neil Lennon today as well. Back in the news, and he's got a big interview release, I think, in 20 minutes on PLZ. But I wish he wouldn't do it. Anyway, before we do that, all that good stuff, do hit the like button if you can, because the Breakfast Bar, there's less geese awake at this time, so the more likes you get, the more traction this show get, and the busier the bus will become. If you want to subscribe to the Bhoycie Bus, you can do so. It's completely free. Loads of you have. I think Phil was saying 3,540 something last night. If you want to become a Bhoycie Bus member, like Alan Woods, like Selps on the Hill, like David Ferguson, like Monty, Ian McIntosh, Patrick McLaughlin, Brown Warrior, Les Watts, and on and on and on, then do feel free to do so. It is £1.99 a month. I do have to warn you though, all our content is free. It's just helping keep the wheels on the road. That's it. Anyway, right, okay, let's get stuck into it. Johnny, big week. It's another, it doesn't feel like it was that long ago. We had our last hype week, but the hype week has begun again. This time, it's as Celtic pursuit a treble. Now, the record Celtic have of winning trebles, I believe we've won 7 in our history, 4 of which, of course, have came in the last 6 years. Now, that's mind-boggling in itself, but has the 4 that we won took almost an edge off what, when you look at how long, I'm trying to do the math, 135 years, if you've only won 7 in that time, right, it should be a pretty special occasion winning a treble. Did winning 4 in a row of them, though, as much as it was an amazing achievement, did it kind of take the edge? And did it lead to an almost expectancy level that's a wee bit unfair, and an entitlement level that definitely isn't fair when it comes to winning trebles?
I don't know if it took an edge off anything, to be fair, because we certainly didn't think it at the time when we were lapping them up, did we? Enjoyed every single moment of it. I mean, obviously living down here in Lincoln, actually not too bad a Celtic contingent in the area, but I'd get people at work who've got no connections with Celtic whatsoever, or Scottish football for that matter, who would say, "Do you not get bored winning every week?" I said, "How can you get bored winning every week? Nobody gets bored winning every week." It does seem a bit of a slant if you've won 4 in a row and you'd only won 3 in the previous 120 odd years. But at the end of the day, I think I know where you're going with that. The fact that people are going to point to the fact that Rangers weren't what they used to be, and cheating and whatnot. But I think you can only beat what's in your competition, whether it be leagues or whether it be cups. Let's face it, St Johnstone managed to win 2 trophies in one season, didn't they? So I don't think it takes the edge off. Personally, I enjoyed every single one of them. The only one that had a bit of a not deflate about it was when we played the delayed Scottish Cup final in December. That was a bit weird. That didn't feel like winning a treble in all honesty, because there was a 6 months into the new season because of the delay.
Steve-O, I don't think I've worded the question very well. Now, I'm gonna revisit how I word the question, and I'll put it to you, right? Johnny's right in everything he says, by the way. I agree with you, Johnny. You're spot on. What I'm trying to say is, has maybe from our fans' point of view, there became an almost, what do you mean we've not won a treble sort of attitude to it, where really it should be an extremely special thing that we do. And because we've won so many of late, it's almost like nae treble, nae party. Almost, and that seems almost alien to folk of all 3 of our vintages, because I only had Martin O'Neill's one until Brendan Rodgers came along, like in my whole Celtic supporting life. There'll be a generation now where they started watching Celtic and it's what we do. We just win trebles now. It seems utterly bizarre when you think of where we were, and by the way, the successful teams that we had in the past, and we couldn't get the job done then. Whereas now it's like, gotta go for the treble, like, come on.
Yeah. I mean, I similarly agree with what's just been said. Does it take it off the edge to become that way where you take it for granted or whatever? Probably not. I wouldn't say so. I don't think it takes anything away from it. I think that, as you rightly said, depending on certain quarters of your fan base, if you're maybe between that age of being an early teenager up to now, with the last sort of 5-6 years of, well, obviously and beyond, with a dine and stuff in between there, but largely speaking, 5 to 6 years where it's been doubles and trebles, then you maybe you maybe just sort of that's your norm, and you maybe sort of think that. But then also comes down to, like, you know, getting beat off Rangers the season over and not getting the opportunity to take a treble. You could have argued the point that because of the standard that Rangers were at and how we'd beat them, that losing that match was bitterly disappointing, you know. So it was. Listen, it depends on how you chop it up. Certainly for me, it doesn't take any edge off it. It doesn't make it any less an achievement, and I don't celebrate it any less. I think, like any, there's certain quarters of the fan base that want everything. They want their cake. They want to eat it, you know, and that'll remain. Even if we do it this year, we'll go into next year, and there'll be this perceived opinion that Rangers will be, again, severely weakened and there for the taking, and it should be a clean sweep. But, you know, count up the amount of games you've got to win. It's hard to do, and there's a reason why, even when they were out with the league, that we still didn't do it.
Well, I thought we'd just throw a wee grenade in to get us kicked off. That was all. Just making sure that's the warm up done, lads. That's well done. You both came out unscathed. But yeah, I mean, obviously, we go into this one then on the back of that, and the level of importance for Celtic on Sunday, we can still kind of look at and contrast and compare with who we're playing. Jonathan coined a brilliant term last night, Johnny. You like this one? So he said, they're not playing for all or nothing on Sunday. They're playing for something or nothing, which I thought was very, very good.
Yeah, I've seen that bit.
That was funny. I mean, when you look at it though, yes, we've just spoke there about how special winning a treble is, how magical it is, and, you know, only doing it 7 times so far, 135 years, whatever. But notwithstanding that, I still feel we can afford to lose it. That's not me going in with a negative mindset. I genuinely think, from a rival's point of view, they must win it. Does that give us any sort of advantage going into the fixture on Sunday?
I don't know if it does. I think the advantage we've got is we're a better team. And what we need to do on Sunday is to properly show up. I know we've managed to win they win the last 2 games and draw the game in Ibrox, but we've never really done it playing the sort of football that we want to be playing. We want to see the boys playing, because we're obviously not in the park. But on Sunday, I'm looking for fast football, exciting football and goals, and just blow them away, preferably before half time. So
that's absolutely fair. I mean, in terms of that though, there is obviously a pressure whenever Celtic play to put in that type of display, especially with the standards that have been set. But in the grander scheme of things, Johnny, if we don't win on Sunday, I don't think our mission or our evolution under Ange comes off the rails in any way, shape, or form. I think defeat for them, and whatever long-term strategy or vision that he's managed to convince them that he's got, I think the rug's pulled from under his feet by his own fans, and that's what I think is more devastating a blow if they don't get the result this weekend. Whereas I think for us, as much as we'll be devastated and gutted to lose, I don't think, in my mind anyway, that our trajectory under Ange or where we're headed changes really much. Just my opinion.
I think you used the right word there. As much as it'll be devastating for us as supporters to lose on Sunday, it won't be devastating as far as us as a club goes. You know, it'll be devastating because the last thing we want to do is to miss out on the opportunity to win a treble. Because I know it's only, we say only Falkirk and Inverness, but we shouldn't, you know, we've still got another game to play after Sunday. Sunday doesn't actually win you the cup, although I do believe whoever wins it on Sunday will. But I'd be more devastated the fact that getting beat by Rangers than I would be if, say, an Aberdeen had put us out in the last round. So although it'll be devastating for us as supporters on Sunday, it'll be devastating for them as a club, I think, if they don't manage a win on Sunday. But it won't have that same effect on us as a club.
Yeah, that's what I think, and I do think subconsciously, you know, I know players will say, "Oh, we don't think of any of that stuff." I do think we go into it, Steve-O, slightly more relaxed, if you can be that in that sort of fixture, than what they are.
Yeah, I think that we're in two different worlds. We're two different worlds apart. This is Rangers' entire season, this game, and it's a crumb of hope to show that they can beat us, to give them false hope for some sort of projection and kicking on to next season, but also that kudos of we beat them again and retained our trophy. That's their mindset. I don't fully agree though that for us that it's less, maybe not less important or carries less weight. We've got the league pretty much wrapped up. We've got one cup in the bag, but it's imperative that we win this game. For reputation more than anything, we're secure moving forward financially, in good health on the pitch and the management setup and so on and so forth. However, this is the second time at this stage that we're going to face them. And we can't afford that reputational damage. I don't mean in the wider media, I just mean on face value. We can say we don't care what they say, but reputationally, if we don't win that game, then it's easy for us to get constantly beat around this head with the stick of they can't get the job done when it really matters. I know that sounds stupid because the big ones win in the league. But this is if you've won everything what we have, this, and then obviously the final, they're the crunch games. They are, when it matters. One-off game, got to make it happen. And I just think to get a treble, we shouldn't feel entitled to it, but it's the one thing at this moment in time when Ange disappears that would really bookmark what he's done and, you know, put down proper kudos beyond just, oh, he was lucky and all this and that. To get a treble, we'll rubber stamp what we all know that Ange has done. So it's very important for us to win this. And I also think that not just for ourselves, but it does bury them. And as we say, it's the hope that will kill them. And this is the one last thing that they've got to hold on to. It's just imperative that we take that away from them. So that's what I'm
that's a good point. No, that's a good point as well. With all that in mind then, Johnny, looks like, and we were talking about it last night, obviously the trio of Jota, Abada, Hatate, three guys that have all had massive impacts in this fixture over the last sort of 18 to 24 months, undeniably. In fact, if you think three players to have a devastating, that seems to be the word of the day already, a devastating impact on this fixture under Ange, probably be those three guys. So with all in mind that we've been saying so far, do you risk them? Unless they're 100% fit, do you then take that risk because of the importance of the game? And I think that's where we'll find out where Ange is at in terms of not the importance of the fixture, but whether he's a bit more like, yes, I know it's must win, but bigger picture is I ain't aggravating injuries to the likes of Jota, Hatate in particular, because I think about it could be for the off. That's a different story. But I do think with Jota and Hatate, we'll get an inkling into whether Ange has been keeping them wrapped up in cotton wool, whether he is willing to go all out for this fixture, this one-off game, and go, if they break down again, it's fine because this game has carried such weight, such level of importance, we had to take that risk, or whether he'll be confident in who he's got in the ranks right now to get the job done and make sure that the welfare of the players that have been a wee bit injured, you know, of late and unfit comes first. That'll be interesting to see.
Yeah. To be fair with you, we could have a mixture of any of them, but personally, I think it's going to be, of the three of them, I only expect Jota to play from the start. And I'm basing that, I don't know what the apparent injury to Jota was at the weekend, but he's only missed the one game, whereas Hatate's missed, 4 or 5 weeks now? And Abada as well. So taking it purely in the length of time that they've been out, I'm only really expecting Jota to start and potentially Hatate to be on the bench and maybe Abada as well, if they're going to be required for the last half an hour, 20 minutes, or extra time if that's what's required. But of the three of them, I don't think he'll risk them if he doesn't need to. I think Jota will be the only one that starts. That's what I would think. But
yeah,
who knows what Angie's playing at, eh?
Well, that's true.
Are they wrapped up in cotton wool? Has Hatate been all right for the last couple of weeks? Who knows? But the fact he's been out for that length of time, I think bench is best for him.
Yeah, I mean, Steve, whilst these things worry us because we've grown attached to some of these players, and like I say, the memories they've already given us, particularly in this fixture as well. I mean, if we're worried about it, imagine trying to pick a team to solve the conundrum of whether Jota's starting, whether Abada's starting, whether Hattati's starting. They must be shiting themselves.
Oh, aye, definitely. Listen, we've got options anyway. I think with recent weeks, and Mark said this, the perceived strength on the bench isn't maybe as good as we thought. But in terms of if we've got players coming back, I very much agree. Jota's the one to play. If you've got guys coming back from injury with 0 minutes in their legs, and you want to not risk but throw one in, it's 1 and 1 only. You can't have room for 2, maybe 3 guys who are not quite up to speed. And for me, it's Jota, quite simply because the alternative option of Haksabanovic is just simply not good enough to start this game. He is not up to it. He's invisible, and Jota's different gravy. So he kicks on and he comes straight in. Hattati, I don't think we need him. I've seen enough in Iwata and think that his physical presence might actually be more beneficial.
I agree.
And as for Abada, not to be flippant, I really just don't care. I really, neither here nor there. Couldn't care less. It makes no difference to my life whatsoever.
That's fair, Steve. Let's talk about Iwata, Johnny. First and foremost, because that was, I think, I'm in very much the camp that Steve is. I've seen enough now, in my opinion, to be very confident he's going to be a big player for Celtic in the next sort of year, 2 years, however much longer this exciting project under Ange goes on for. And that's not me chasing him out the door. Just usually the shelf life is about 3 or 4 years. I think Iwata, to me, I've seen enough now. I'm convinced. I was watching a bit of Open Goal last night, and I know you can take the comments tongue in cheek and you can take them a pinch of salt, but undeniably they've all been around football and footballers for years and years. And like Paulson was saying, he goes, trust me, he goes, I've been told that he is the boy in training. Like, he's a joke how good he is. He's the real deal. And that doesn't surprise me. That goes along with how much I've just seen him sort of growing more and more into the Celtic shirt. And I think it shows sometimes the importance of patience with players and integrating them at a pace that you would expect when they're coming from the other corners of the globe. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I think it's been so easy to want to write off players that haven't just came in like a steam train when they've signed for Celtic, Johnny, because we've had that impact from so many of them. But you need to bear in mind, a lot of that was through, we needed them to firstly have that impact, and we needed to thrust them into the side straight away because it was a needs must situation. We're not in that now. And what we've seen is a far better oiled Celtic machine being able to afford to allow Iwata to bed himself into the side at a far slower rate, but one that you're actually now beginning to see the benefits of. And I tell you this, see any player that could come in this team and have us, I'm not going to say relaxed about Hattati being missing, but okay with it, they've got to be doing something right.
Yeah, I haven't seen too much of Iwata, to be fair. I mean, as you know, I've been out of the country a few times when some of the games have been going on. But if we take it to last January when we signed Maeda and Hattati, we did at that time, we needed them to come in and basically hit the ground running. And to be fair, they pretty much did. Maeda scored in the 4th minute. Hattati with his, Phil calls it a thunder bastard of a shot against Hearts. And then following up against Rangers. So they had to come in and hit the ground running. This year, of the January signings, the only one that we needed, the only one we really needed to come in, hitting the ground running, has done, and that was Johnson, because he was obviously coming in to replace our favourite Croatian fullback. But he did come in and hit the ground running. Whereas I think Iwata and Kobayashi were both brought with the intention of letting them have some bedding in time. And it looks like Kobayashi's bedding in time is going to have to be for the remainder of the season. He might get some minutes once the league title's got the ribbons tied on it, he might get some games, especially depending on what's going on with Carter Vickers, whether he has to get laid off for for his operation if he needs to. But he does look from the little bits I've seen of him and from what you guys have all been saying about him here on the bus and on our WhatsApp groups, he certainly does seem to be slotting in nicely and taking away the fear of Hatate not making it.
Steve-O, undeniably, it does soften that blow. I'm also in the camp where it's not just about whether Hatate's available or not, and we're okay about Iwata playing. For me, what we've seen from my favourite player in the world, Aaron Moy, in the last couple of appearances, mate, I know he's had an impact in this fixture on a couple of occasions this year, but that's when he was in the side on the regular, playing, getting plenty of minutes in his legs. Actually, I mean, I've got to be honest, I've been shocked how unfit he's looked for only being out for like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I think he's a complete no-no for this weekend. Yeah. That's not me taking any joy in saying that, Steve-O, and forget all the past, what I've said before, right? I genuinely am saying in the last 2 appearances, I've seen a guy who looked back to square one in terms of his fitness sort of recovery. And that sort of off-the-pace nature that I've seen from him is a complete no-no for this fixture at the weekend.
Absolutely, mate. It's you and I were talking about that the other day, actually, and as you just said there, that's what we were discussing. Moy was brought in to do a job, and I'd say largely he's done it. It took him a fair bit of time to get up to speed, and then he came into the team, and I think he maybe get in by design where the likes of O'Reilly was having a bit of a luller for him as he was picking up. But since he's come back in, he has been completely a mile off it. He's been back to those sort of post-World Cup or pre-World Cup levels of uselessness where balls are just bouncing off him and, that sort of control and everything that we sort of seen from him just seems to have completely diminished overnight. He absolutely can't play. It's pretty clear that he's the kind of guy who needs regular minutes, where that's starting and doing the 60 minutes of coming on and getting 30 minutes. And he's just not had it. He's not up to speed enough. He's too much at risk. And looking further beyond, as we were saying when we were talking, I think perhaps he was brought in as a stopgap until the Iwata thing happened to get him up to speed. So just looking beyond this game, it'll be interesting to see where his future lies with us, because I don't think on the trajectory that we're probably going to be on, that getting 60 minutes in a game or 30 minutes every other game is going to happen for him. So I think that we should be seeing Leslie Moy between now and the end of the season, and probably phasing him out, to be honest with you, unless he wants to stay for nominal wages and sub 10 grand wages, So I wouldn't let him anywhere on the other team for the weekend.
Did he sign a 2-year contract last year, or was it just a 1 year?
One with a 1 option, I believe, and I don't think the second year's been triggered as of yet. I've got a feeling he'll go down the Tom Rogic route this summer. I think there will be a chance they'll go, look, we know there's the option of the other year, but you're not going to, you've done brilliant for us, but we're reaching the end of the road. The team's going this way, and I'm afraid that you're going to be a bit surplus in what Tom Rogic would have been earning, for example, at Celtics. Remember, he left with a year to run. He was actually had signed a deal of 5 years, I believe, under Rodgers at 20 grand a week, something like that. Yeah. And I think that's where I'm just going, for a player who's probably not going to be part of the next phase, and bear in mind that was phase 2, he didn't think Rogic was going to make it. I think phase 3 of the Celtic team, I could see a similar conversation with Aaron Moy, and that's not me trying to bash him in any way, shape or form. It is what it is, Johnny.
Well, let me ask you a question then. What would you rather? We kept Rogic for this final year or Moy?
No, I think I'm quite happy for Ange to make ruthless decisions as and when they're needed.
But what I'm saying is, the player-wise, who would you, whether it was a ruthless decision, and it obviously was, because it wasn't Rogic's decision to go. Ange told him he was going.
Yeah.
But at least that's what I believe. But I'd have rather kept Rogic for his final year and had him as a player than Moy. I think Moy's showing the old saying, form is temporary, class is permanent. I think Moy shows that in reverse, because I think what he's done in, since the World Cup, I think it's been a purple patch for him. And he has, as you said there, Steve, he's gone back to pre-World Cup levels. And I'm not saying he's not been a good player in the past, but I'm you. I don't think he'll play too much more. Certainly shouldn't be playing on Sunday. And I don't think he'll be there next season.
Yeah, I think there's a bit of unison in the chat about Aaron Moy's chances of playing at the weekend. Anyway, as I was alluding to at the top of the show, and now you have obviously been on the bus a fair amount of time now, lads, and you know fine well I have. Whilst I was critical at the time when he was in situ and we were having that disastrous 10-in-a-row campaign, Steve-O, I was critical at the time, thought that was just being honest and fair. I have obviously pushed back against, ridiculous comments like Neil Lennon isn't a Celtic legend and things like that. When I look at his achievements as player and manager, I find it baffling. I find it quite petty. I find it a bit childish. But he doesn't help himself. And yes, he's got to go back into the media, and I get that, because if you're looking or angling for potentially a job in the SPFL at one of the vacant positions going into next season, then you've got to remind people you're about. And therefore, obviously, I think if you remember, he couldn't take a job before the 1st of April because of some tax thing or something like that. It was, which is fair enough. I mean, if he's making a hell of an extra wage in where was he? It was Cyprus, wasn't it?
Cyprus, yeah.
I mean, if he's like, I need to hold off till the 1st of April, boys, it's worth too much wage, that's his gift to do that. That's fair enough. And lo and behold, within a month of that date, he is now back, and it's with his old pal Peter Martin. And I don't know how much Lennon drives these conversations, how much self-preservation he feels he's got to do to make himself look a better candidate for a future role. If it were me, and I was the employer of, I don't know, a Dundee United, Jim Goodwin could still leave this summer, remember? And you're thinking, Lennon's on that shortlist. I think these interviews do him more disservice than they do him credit, Steve-O. I think he's got to let that season go, or if that season is going to come up, I think he's already pushed out his narrative enough that he's not taking responsibility for it. I think it'd be a far better look if we were now, with revision and with time to let the dust settle, be now saying, well, we all know the other factors. Now I've had time to reflect on my responsibility within that, where I got it wrong. And I didn't get recruitment right. I did. The players that did come in, I didn't help them settle quickly enough. I didn't get the tactics right, team selection right. I persisted with certain players in certain positions for too long. I didn't sell players at the right time. I think that would be far more refreshing to hear him talk like that now, Steve-O. Whilst we can all be acutely aware of all the other factors that were going on, I think to constantly bring them into the focus, that frustrates me now, because it almost looks like it's quite petty, and it looks to me like you need to, as a manager, worth his salt, not being able to take any sort of responsibility for your own shortcomings is a poor look.
Yep, I actually think the interview of what I've seen in the Cup, it's just desperate. Neil Lennon at this moment in time stinks of absolute desperation, and it's one of the most foul-smelling colognes that you can put on your body. It's merry-go-round nonsense. Now, I know that, as you said, he wants to remind folk that he's out there, okay? But what always irks me, and I know it doesn't have any impact on the current squad, or it shouldn't, or the club, it just annoys us fans. It's always the timing of these stupid interviews he does. Game on Sunday, and here's some bullshit interview that he's doing, talking shite about how everybody else was to blame other than him. And I'm fed up with it, and I'm pretty sure everybody else is. And all it does is really diminish and erode when people we do these podcasts in retrospective, and we talk about it, and we look back, nice and fond memories, and he just comes in and goes, Shane, go, fuck him. That just instantly undoes the wee bit of sort of, pulling back, you're kind of feeling all right about Lennon a wee bit, and then he comes back and then just pisses you off again. But I don't think it services him anyway for getting a job, because let's be totally honest here, see if we're talking about the United St Johnson or jobs like that, is that not what your agent's for? Hello? He's interested in job.
Do you think his agents would be telling him to do these interviews?
But I don't see what the worth on it is. See if the interview was simply, as you say, is how much does he push the narrative or control the narrative? See if the interview is just, so, what have you been up to recently?
Talk about Cyprus, future plans.
Talk about that. Yep, generic. That's fine. Push in the window. You tell them what you're doing. You tell them what you're feeling.
We'll put our hands up. That may well be the case in other sections.
Well, we're still to see it.
But PLZ have went down the road of instantly pushing the minute and a half of him talking about 2 seasons ago. So it gives you an insight that was the most interesting part of
yeah. Well, they know it's clickbait. They know that if they see that, like we're doing right now, we're talking about it, we're annoyed about it, that's going to get folk to go and view it, right? But also, there's got to be a wee bit, surely, a self-awareness. If you're Neil Lennon or his management team, whoever it is, to turn around and say, we're doing an interview, we don't talk about this. Because that's really just detrimental. If you're trying to push yourself in the window to get a job, then his record's there on paper, folk will look at that. But they'll also, you don't want to remind them at that time that your fucking decision making was disastrous, and everything that went with it. So it's totally counterproductive. I just wish that it just stopped doing these stupid interviews and stopped talking about that whole subject. Not because it's sore on us. I just think it's a bad look.
I'm on Lennon's side. This is the thing, Johnny. I've talked about if I were, at one point the Aberdeen chairman, I'd have pushed that big ginger button. I would have got get Lennon and save the season. I said that before, and I just look at it now and I go, oh man, I just don't want. I don't think it's a good look for you, mate. There's got to be better angles you can take up. Even when asked about that season, I would like his opinion on it to just shift slightly into going, because we were all there. We all suffered through it. There was fuck all else to do in the world at that time, apart from watch Celtic get humped every week.
Yeah.
We know what level of responsibility he has to take for that as well. And it would be good to see him just taking a wee bit more ownership of it, I think, Johnny.
See, the thing is with Lenny is, I'm like you, Russell. He was a hero during his playing days. He would have gone through umpteen brick walls to win a ball for our midfield. And he was a great player. Well, when I say great player, it's not he was the silkiest player in the world, but he was a great player for us. Done well with his first time around as manager, obviously. Yeah, I was quite happy that he came back when Brendan done his flick to Leicester. Did I want him to get the job permanently after that and get handed it in the showers at Hampden? No, I didn't. It was, you've come in, you've done a good job, you've settled the ship, you've got us through it. Thanks for that. Just move aside and we'll bring in somebody else.
Yeah, that's on Celtic though, not him. I mean, he's not going to turn down that job.
Yeah, absolutely. When it comes to the COVID season, I think most people had decided that it was going to be time to move on in October. I think it was against Aberdeen up at Petodry. I think that was when it was the final straw for me. Things have to change, otherwise at that time we started a chance of rescuing something, and we blew it by not. Celtic blew it by not moving Lennon on. Yeah. And I think sometimes, if you remember, Ange, not long after his first transfer window, when he said, maybe I've not been quite forceful enough about regarding players he wanted brought in. Well, was Lennon maybe should have been a bit more forceful? We know how much my lad David, and I'm not gonna drop him in it this week. I'll just, how much he goes on about Ivan Toney. Did Lennon maybe should have put his foot down and said, no, he's the man I want. I'm not wanting this fucking reserve player from West Ham. I want this big brute that bangs in goals and never misses a penalty. Unlike some of the team, the lads we've got in the team at the minute. And was he not maybe forceful enough, and he should have pushed that through and wasn't strong enough for the Celtic board and the Celtic board were quite happy just to let him go on. But regarding the interview, I've not seen it. I probably won't even watch it, to be honest with you. I think he needs to hold his hands up and say, I got some things wrong that year, and that's just the way of it. Wasn't my fault, mate. Big boy did it and ran away.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I probably will watch the interview and just so I can then, I don't know, jump out the window or something. It's just raging. Do you know what I mean? But I love Lenny. Do you know what I mean? I just would rather he wasn't doing stuff like that. It's just the way it is. Anyway, more importantly, we've got Big Ange in right now. We'll need to talk about what his focus is before we go, because he's saying the motivation is always there, mate. That's what he says, Steve-O. There's no extra motivation. There's no need to be getting. The motivation is there every game, mate. That's the attitude that we want to hear, isn't it?
Aye, he's forever been positive, and that's that's as much as you can ask for. I don't think there's any sort of wavering of that attitude and application from him. And we're going into an exciting period of time. Hopefully, we dispatch the baddies at the weekend. We push on, take care of Hearts, and then take care of Rangers. And I know that we've got all these, sights and goals that we could potentially, milestones that we could potentially hit. And, should we be pushing on for them? Well, I absolutely. But at the same time, I think that once we get the 2 or 3, shall we say, big games out the way, I would like to see a wee bit more of what he's been doing with the likes of, he's introduced Rocco and give him a wee bit of time. We've said time again, do you give folk the time just for the sake of it? I maybe contradicting myself with that one, but let's see what certain guys have got. There's been chatty like we might play a back 3. Let's try it. Let's see how it looks. I thought 2 up front. Let's try it, see how it works. Let's go mental, you know what I mean? So
love it, mate. Love it.
Get the 3 out of the way and then try a few things, whether that's Owen Kyogo up front, a back 3 with Kobayashi and Carter Vickers, that kind of thing. Let's see. So I'm optimistic and I want to see where things are going. And hopefully, as soon as the season ends, we're starting our business nice and sharp again and picking up. And keeping the foot down.
Indeed. Johnny, I describe Celtic as a well-oiled machine now. It does feel that way under the manager, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah, definitely. And he's just going to keep buying new, better, bigger and improved parts to fit into that machine, isn't he? At least that's what we hope he continues to keep doing for the next 10 years. Just slick. I mean, there's not much else you can say about it. Although it probably does need a little bit of fine-tuning from what we've seen over the last few weeks. I know we've been getting the results. Just a little fine-tuning, just get it in the garage, just give it a little bit of a remap, bit of a tune here, and unleash it on Sunday.
Absolutely. Unleash it on Sunday, indeed. Well, that's been about 45 minutes. I'm going to call it there. My throat is killing me, and I've got to start work, and talking's kind of a big part of my job. So, and I'm working till 8 o'clock tonight as well. So I am going to call it there and go get myself a wee hot drink. Thank you to Johnny and Steve-O this morning. And of course, everyone in the live chat. The hype has begun, the hype bus, you could say, ahead of this weekend. There'll be plenty more podcasts for you to get round. Obviously, we've got a Judgment Day special has been recorded. It's, what is it they call it, in the can? It's ready to go. We've got the TNF to come this week. We've got Bustalgia to get to really whet the appetite with a real focus on a couple of Scottish Cup games against that other mob, whatever you want to call them. And then, we'll be doing some Sunday Blether. We'll be doing PMP at the weekend. It's all to look forward to. Anyway, enjoy whatever it is you get up to today. If you're working, get your best, mate. Do your best. I'm certainly going to try to do mine. See you later.
Well, you've all that stuff at the start. They won't be playing Tina Turner on the coach on the way home, will they?
Some of his comments about me deliberately trying to cause controversy. Well, I work in the media now. And you've got someone sitting there next to you who's an embarrassment to the media profession. He's an apologist. He's a charlatan. He's a Rangers puppet. He's a cheerleader. That's what he is.